There are a lot of myths out there in the archery world, particularly when it comes to fixed blade broadheads. So I'm going to break down the 3 most common myths I hear about fixed blade broadheads. The first myth I hear all the time is that fixed blade broadheads don't make as big a blood trail as mechanicals. It comes from the fact that gore sells. Quentin Tarantino has made a career off of that, right? You look at some of the mechanicals on the market, a big 2-inch cut, you're gonna look at that and just your brain is immediately gonna think that's gonna slice a massive hole through an animal, therefore it's more lethal. But that's just not true. The biggest factor in a blood trail is getting a pass through. Yes, cut diameter matters, and yes, the type of wound channel that is created matters, but the biggest factor is getting a pass through. If your arrow doesn't pass through, your odds of getting a good blood trail go down significantly. We know that fixed blade broadheads penetrate better than mechanicals. It's just a simple fact. They're smaller and they don't take any energy to open blades on impact. The second that they hit flesh, they are cutting. A mechanical has to open its blades and that sucks some energy out of the arrow, reducing its penetration. Lower penetration means less of a chance of a pass through, lowering your chances of getting a good blood trail. The other point to address with this is the type of cut that's being created. Most mechanicals are 2 blades. Some are 3. I've never seen a 4-blade mechanical. We make 4-blade fixed broadheads at tooth of the arrow, and I believe that creates a perfect wound channel. The 4 blades essentially cuts like a square hole through the animal. It's more of a gaping wound than it is a slice, and it creates amazing blood trails. And if you don't believe me, check out this video right here of a whitetail doe I shot last year here in Alberta. It was a red carpet. Now, I shot mechanicals for a lot of years before I fully switched to fixed blades, and I had great success, so I'm not out here saying that they're the worst thing in the world, but I do believe that fixed blades are better, and I have gotten more pass-throughs with fixed blade broadheads and more blood trails as a result. The next myth I hear all the time is that fixed blades don't fly like field points, that you need to broadhead tune your bow. This just isn't true either. If your bow is properly set up, you would take the same steps in setting up your bow if you were shooting mechanicals or fixed blade broadheads. If you're doing everything properly and checking every box, you should be able to stick almost any broadhead on the end of your arrow and they'll fly good. And I say almost any because there are some cheaper Chinese made broadheads that just never are going to fly properly. But if you're taking care in every step along the way of your setup, and that means setting up your bow properly, cam timing, yoke tuning, making sure that arrow rest is center shot before doing any paper tuning, trying to yoke tune or shim your cams instead of moving your arrow rest when you're paper tuning or bear shaft tuning, making sure that your arrows are perfectly spine matched for your bow. That is the biggest thing. If you do all of these things, there is just no debate. You're going to be able to take a mechanical or a fixed blade broadhead and put it on your arrow and it's going to fly great. When we hear that fixed blades don't fly as good as mechanicals, now this can be true in the sense that if your bow is not properly set up and your arrows are not spine matched, yes, they aren't going to fly as good as mechanicals, but that is not the broadhead's fault. We as bow hunters owe it to ourselves and to the animals that we hunt to put as much care and attention as possible into every detail in our setup to make sure that things are perfect. So if you're out there shooting mechanicals because fixed blades don't fly right for you, I would challenge you to take a step back and not just blame the broadheads, but look at something else in your setup. Have you spine matched? Have you taken that next step beyond just looking at a spine chart and choosing arrows? Have you gone through the full process of putting your bow setup and arrow setup into the computer program and basically calculating the perfect arrow setup for your bow? If you're interested in more of that, which I think is a must do for any bow hunter, check out this video I did on it right here. But yes, it is a myth that fixed blades don't fly like field points. If they aren't flying like field points for you, it's your bow that's not shooting them like field points, or your arrow setup that is not allowing them to fly like field points. It's very rarely the broadhead. So the third and final myth I hear all the time is that fixed blades aren't as lethal as mechanicals because of the small cutting diameter. Now, we kind of covered this in the blood trail discussion with the first myth, but I want to talk about this specifically in terms of the lethality of the broadhead, particularly the cutting diameter. One organization that has studied this to no end is the Ed Ashby Foundation, and I've spoken with them a lot, and there's a general consensus with them and a lot of other great bow hunters in the community. There's a general consensus that cutting diameter does not matter. The biggest factors are penetration and accuracy. Now, having a slightly smaller broadhead, the 1 inch, for example, that we make is so accurate. It's compact, but it has that 4-blade design that's going to poke a nice square hole, and that is going to be so good for lethality because it's accurate and it's going to penetrate deep because it's not a massive 2-inch wide blade that has to open up on impact, and so on and so on. The reality of bow hunting is that if you put a field point in an animal's lungs, they're going to die. When the lung cavity is deflated, animals die, period. So we should be striving to shoot the most accurate broadhead we can, and second, the best penetrating head possible so that we can get through both lungs. Even if we hit a shoulder, even if we hit both shoulders, we want to give ourselves the best chance of fully penetrating that chest cavity. So no, cutting diameter is not the end all be all of lethality when it comes to broadheads. Does it help? Yeah, it does help, but you should be focusing on getting great accuracy and amazing penetration first before you start looking at bigger heads and trying to cut bigger holes, because the difference that makes is just marginal in comparison. If you're interested in more about that, check out this video where we sat down with a surgeon who's been hunting for 30 plus years and working as a surgeon for 30 plus years, so he knows a lot about what it takes to save or end something's life, and we broke down the science of shot placement and all this stuff in this video right here. So what are some other fixed blade myths that I didn't mention, or where do you think I'm completely wrong, or where do you agree with me? I want to hear about it. Thank you guys for watching.